Hello, and welcome to the Apocalypse Authority Listening Room. I'm your host, and today we'll be talking about why the military failed so quickly in containing the Knox event infection. The key reason for military failure was the airborne spread of the pathogen. Now, let me explain why. In the video game Project Zomboid, the Knox event infection was devastating as it could be spread through airborne particles. This had huge consequences that played a significant role in overwhelming the military. Talking about things that aren't huge, in my opinion, the virus could spread rapidly through the air, much like the common cold or flu, but turned up a little bit. Kind of like a silly little virus that started in 2020 and I cannot say the name of. This meant that likely, before the military could fully assess and understand the situation, the infection was already widespread. In fact, according to the game developers, residents of Knox County, Kentucky reported a strange smell in the air weeks before the Knox event. Soldiers, no matter how well equipped, found it challenging to protect themselves from an invisible threat carried on the wind. It is unknown if they even knew it was airborne, and I think it's safe to assume that according to the game, quote, hilarious underfunding, unquote, of the CDC, and the poor handling of a previous outbreak, the Raleigh outbreak, that was handled quite poorly, it is safe to assume that the military didn't really know what they were doing. General Davis, the leading military official who contained the Knox event, is either really incompetent or was given too little resources, too little time. The airborne nature of the infection made traditional quarantine efforts ineffective. Infected individuals could easily transmit the virus through ventilation systems, open air, basically anywhere with air, rendering quarantine zones porous. Let's imagine a person. Let's say a person named Jimmy visits his grandma in her home in Kentucky. Then he drives back and starts feeling ill on the way to his house. He goes to his house, he goes to a grocery store or something. He spreads the fever he has to someone else. And that person goes home and they spread it to their family. Their family goes to school, whatever. You understand what I'm saying. By the time the Knox event line, the exclusion zone, was erected, the virus was probably done incubating somewhere outside of Kentucky. This would also explain the rapid fall of world order in a matter of weeks. This, combined with the airborne spread of the infection, means that a full epidemic with this pathogen probably happened quickly and effectively, explaining why the world goes to shit so quickly. Even well-trained military personnel were at risk. When soldiers operated in infected areas, they faced constant exposure. The slightest lapse in protective measures could lead to an infection, resulting in loss of personnel. And that is if soldiers were even given proper protective equipment. Judging by what you would find, or will find if you check it out, in the Louisville checkpoint, only a few gas masks and no hazmat suits, this probably means that the soldiers got the airborne infection quickly. Although, one of my sources argue that a zombified Marine Corps member wouldn't change much because of the already, quote, zombified state, unquote. The knowledge that the infection was airborne most likely exuberated panic among both civilians and military members. Fear of invisible contagion made maintaining discipline and morale a monumental challenge. However, by the time that people knew it spread through the air, it was most likely already too late, as the military, CDC, and president didn't really tell people much until most urban areas were compromised. However, before this, riots broke out in major cities, and people were scared. Government, as I said before, hid the truth, only telling people when it was too late. Panic makes people do stupid things. It's no question why the United States military panicked. I can verify, I once fell down a flight of stairs while panicked, because I wasn't thinking straight. Talking about not thinking straight, no officer, I did not, as the infection continued to spread through the air, military checkpoints and defensive positions began to crumble. The authority of government and military eroded, and the situation became increasingly chaotic. The airborne nature did no favors here. People got sick without being bitten, and a quick collapse of the remaining government forces due to infection or just being overwhelmed all across the United States happened quickly. Almost as quick as my girlfriend left. For those who know, it was astonishingly fast. I'm totally talking about the collapse of the government, not the, Anyway, In the face of these overwhelming challenges posed by the airborne infection, the military was forced into retreat, leaving survivors to fend for themselves. Shortly thereafter, power, water, communications, literally every federal service goes down across the entire United States. And I think it's safe to assume that continuity of government was enacted. As a TV broadcast says, most of the federal government was probably, quote, in the bunker, unquote. For perspective, in real life, the September attacks were the only time it has been activated. That's just the kind of severity that it would be enacted. In summary, the airborne nature of the infection in Project Zomboid's Knox event changed the dynamics of the crisis versus every other zombie game or movie in profound ways. Any scenario you can think of gets trumped by airborne infection. There's no containment of it, or not easily, or realistically. Let's just go with there's no containment of it, there's no preventing it. It's a trump card. Winner takes all, kills everyone. Rapid transmission, difficulty in quarantine, the risk to military personnel, panic, and the collapse of authority all stemmed from this airborne threat. For perspective, if you were to smell a fart in a room, smell a real stinker, then you would have the virus. However, the player's immune to the real stinker airborne variant, so it's safe to assume that at least one person in the world of Project Zomboid is safe from it. Adaptive immunity is a possible reason for the airborne variant not to affect the player, or maybe just asymptomatic survivors are out there. Take Left 4 Dead, for example. I actually don't know where it's mentioned, but it's mentioned that they're asymptomatic, but they all have the virus. Either that, or the one vitamin that I took years ago, is coming back to save me. It's a stark reminder that in a world where the very air we breathe can carry a deadly contagion, even the most well-armed and trained forces can find themselves on the brink of defeat.